The Draconian Empire was the most powerful force in the known galaxy. For 100 years, they had spread across the stars like a dark shadow. They conquered worlds without mercy. They crushed armies without effort. Their name alone made entire civilizations surrender before a single shot was fired. Supreme Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Claw. He was tall for a Draconian, with scales the color of dried blood and eyes that had seen 1,000 battles. Behind him, through the massive viewing window, 300 warships moved in perfect formation. Each ship was larger than a mountain. Each carried weapons that could turn cities to dust in seconds. 40 million soldiers waited in those ships, the finest warriors the Empire had ever produced. Veterans of campaigns that had broken the backs of species far older and far more advanced than the one they were about to face. Looked at the small blue planet growing larger on his screen. Earth, a nothing world in a nothing system. The humans who lived there had barely left their own atmosphere. They had no fleet, no planetary shields, no weapons worth mentioning. This would not be a war, this would be a harvest. His second-in-command, a younger Draconian named, approached with a data tablet. "Commander, our scouts have completed their final survey. The humans have detected our approach. They are attempting to contact us." Laughed, the sound was cold and sharp. "Let them talk. What can they possibly say that would matter?" "They are asking for peace, Commander. They are offering to negotiate." "Negotiate?" turned to face his officer. "We do not negotiate with insects, we step on them." The bridge crew laughed with him. It was a good joke, a true joke. The Draconian Empire had negotiated exactly once in its history, and that was only to accept the complete surrender of the collective. Even then, they had burned 3 of their worlds just to make a point. Gave the order, the Armada descended. Earth's atmosphere burned around their ships as they entered. The heat was nothing to Draconian technology. Their shields could withstand the heart of a star. A little friction was meaningless. They spread across the planet like a plague. 100 ships positioned over North America, 50 over Europe, 50 over Asia. The rest scattered to cover every major population center, every capital city, every military base. The broadcasts began. In every human language, the same message played. "People of Earth, you are now subjects of the Draconian Empire. Surrender immediately and completely. Resistance will result in extinction. You have 1 hour to respond." Waited on his bridge. He expected panic. He expected chaos. He expected the humans to fall over themselves begging for mercy. Instead, he got silence. 30 minutes passed. The human military bases showed no activity. Their primitive aircraft stayed on the ground. Their missiles remained in their silos. It was as if the entire planet had simply frozen. Checked his instruments again. "Commander, I am reading no response of any kind. No communications, no military movement, nothing." Frowned, this was unusual. Every species reacted to invasion. Some fought, some ran, some surrendered, but no one ever just sat there. "Perhaps they are in shock," he said. "Send ground forces to the nearest major city. Begin the occupation." "Yes, Commander." The first landing ships descended toward a city the humans called Sol. 20,000 Draconian soldiers in full battle armor. Enough firepower to level the entire region if necessary. Watched the feeds from the ground troops' helmet cameras. The city looked normal. Buildings stood tall. Vehicles sat in the streets. But there were no people, no civilians running, no soldiers fighting. Just empty streets and silence. Then the static began. One by one, the helmet camera feeds went dark. No explosion, no screams, no weapons fire, just static. His blood ran cold. "What is happening? Report." His hands were shaking as he worked his console. "I cannot reach them, Commander. All 20,000 signals just stopped." "That is impossible. Check for jamming, check for..." The lights on the bridge flickered. Every screen went dark for 1 heartbeat, 2 heartbeats, then they came back on. But the view had changed. Where 300 warships had filled the sky, there were now 299. The ship closest to the planet's surface was simply gone. No debris, no explosion, just empty space where a vessel the size of a mountain had been. Smouth went dry. Where is the Crimson Blade? No one answered. Another ship vanished, then another, and another. They were disappearing in complete silence, as if some invisible hand was simply erasing them from existence. "Pull back," screamed. "All ships, emergency retreat, get us out of the atmosphere." The Iron Claw's engines roared to life. The flagship began to climb, fighting against Earth's gravity. Through the viewing window, watched his armada dying. Ships that had conquered worlds were blinking out of existence like candle flames in a hurricane. 200 ships left, 150, 100. "We have cleared the atmosphere, Commander," shouted. "Jump to hyperspace now." The navigation officer's voice was barely a whisper. "Commander, our hyperdrive is not responding. None of the hyperdrives are responding." Felt something he had not felt in 50 years of warfare. Fear, pure animal fear. Then broadcast a message to the full power emergency channel. Claws scraped against his console. "Channel open, Commander." Stared at the blue planet below. 60 ships left, 40, 30. He had conquered 17 star systems. He had killed billions. He had never lost a battle in his entire career. And now he was dying, and he did not even know how. The humans had done something impossible, something that no species in the galaxy had ever achieved. They had made the Draconian Empire afraid. Leaned toward the communication array. His voice was steady, even as his flagship shuddered around him. "This is Supreme Commander of the Draconian Armada. Do not come to Earth. Do not send reinforcements. Do not attempt rescue." He paused. 20 ships left, 10. "Run." The transmission ended. The Iron Claw vanished. On the Draconian, 300 light-years away, Emperor listened to the recording 17 times. Each time his scales grew paler. Each time his hands shook more violently. He summoned his war council. 40 of the most experienced military minds in the Empire gathered in the throne room, expecting orders for a rescue mission or a second invasion. Instead, the Emperor played them the recording. When it ended, no one spoke. The silence stretched for 5 minutes, 10. Finally, Admiral, the oldest warrior in the room, stood. "We must send scouts. We must learn what happened." Emperor nodded slowly. "Send probes first, unmanned, long-range sensors only." The probes launched within the hour. 12 of them, the most advanced surveillance technology the Empire possessed. They vanished the moment they entered Earth's solar system. Scout ships were sent next. Small, fast, crewed by volunteers who knew they might not return. They vanished too. Emperor made his decision. He addressed the Empire from the steps of the Grand Palace, his voice broadcast to every colony, every outpost, every ship. "The planet called Earth is now forbidden. No Draconian vessel shall approach within 100 light-years of its star. This is not a suggestion. This is law. This is survival." The other species of the galaxy watched this announcement with disbelief. The mighty Draconians, running from primitives. The empire that had crushed civilizations was afraid of a species that still used chemical rockets. The mockery began immediately. They called them cowards. They called them fools. A dozen other species laughed openly at the fallen conquerors. But Emperor did not care about their laughter. He had heard Commander's voice. He had heard the fear in that single word. "Run." And he intended to do exactly that. 50 years passed since the Draconian Armada vanished. The galaxy moved on. Old empires fell and new powers rose. Trade routes expanded across thousands of star systems. Wars were fought and peace treaties were signed. But Earth remained silent. The small blue planet orbited its yellow sun without any contact with the outside universe. No ships came from it. No signals reached out. It was as if the humans had simply decided to ignore the rest of the galaxy. And the galaxy was happy to ignore them back. After all, what did a primitive species matter? The Galactic Council met every standard year in a massive space station called the Grand Forum. Representatives from over 200 species gathered there to discuss trade, borders, and disputes. It was supposed to be a place of cooperation and progress. Today, it was a place of argument. Ambassador of the collective stood at the central podium. Her body was made of living crystal, and she glowed with soft blue light as she spoke. They were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They believed they were also The time has come to address the Earth situation, announced. Her voice rang through the chamber like wind chimes. For 50 years, we have avoided that system. For 50 years, we have allowed fear and superstition to guide our policy. This must end. Murmurs spread through the assembled representatives. Some nodded in agreement. Others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Continued. Earth represents an enormous opportunity. Our scientists have analyzed long-range scans of the planet. It is rich in resources, water, metals, biological diversity, and the humans themselves represent a labor force of over 10 billion individuals. A representative from the Dominion raised his head. What about the Draconians? They lost 300 ships to that world. Made a dismissive gesture with one crystalline hand. The Draconians were conquerors, not diplomats. They approached Earth with weapons drawn and threats on their lips. Is it any surprise they were met with resistance? We are different. We will approach with open hands and peaceful intentions. From the back of the chamber, an old voice spoke. You do not know what you are suggesting. Everyone turned to look. The Draconian section had been empty for decades. The Empire had withdrawn from galactic politics after the Earth disaster, focusing instead on defending their remaining territories. But today, one representative had come. His name was. He was ancient by Draconian standards. His scales faded to dull gray, his movements slow and careful. But his eyes were sharp, and his voice carried the weight of terrible memory. I was there, said, rising slowly from his seat. I was a communications officer on one of the support vessels during the invasion. My ship was one of the last to be destroyed. The chamber went silent. I heard Commander's final transmission. I heard what was in his voice. Walked toward the central floor, each step heavy with age and pain. That was not the voice of a man facing defeat. That was the voice of a man who had seen something that broke his understanding of reality. His crystal form flickered with impatience. With respect, representative, that was 50 years ago. Times change. Technology advances. Surely. Surely what? Interrupted. Surely the humans have grown weaker. Surely they have forgotten how to defend themselves. You are a fool if you believe that. He turned to address the entire chamber. We sent a second armada to Earth, 150 ships, our finest remaining fleet. They vanished the moment they entered the solar system. Not one signal, not one survivor, not one piece of debris. Perhaps your ships were simply inferior, someone called out. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Did not laugh, perhaps, or perhaps something far worse. We have monitored Earth from the edge of their system for 5 decades. Our sensors have detected things we cannot explain. Energy signatures that match no known technology. Structures that appear and disappear without warning. Sometimes, our monitoring stations pick up signals from the planet, voices speaking languages that have never existed, music that makes our crews weep without knowing why. Stepped closer to the old Draconian. You are trying to frighten us with ghost stories. I am trying to save you. Met her gaze without blinking. The humans did something to our armada, something impossible, and whatever they did it in complete silence. They did not boast. They did not make demands. They simply erased the greatest military force in our history and then went back to their quiet lives. He paused, letting his words sink in. Does that not terrify you? A species that can destroy fleets without effort and chooses to say nothing about it. What else can they do? What else have they done? We do not know, and that is the point. We do not know, and they do not want us to know. The chamber was quiet now, even seemed uncertain. But then another representative spoke, Bora of the Merchant Guild. She was a practical woman, concerned with profits and trade routes, not old fears. Representative, I appreciate your warning, but the galaxy cannot operate on fear alone. Earth sits on valuable resources and trade routes. If we continue to avoid that system, we are losing potential wealth beyond calculation. She stood, straightening her robes. I propose a compromise. We send a joint expedition, 30 ships from 12 species. A diplomatic mission, not an invasion. We approach with respect and offer peaceful contact. If the humans refuse, we leave. If they accept, we establish trade. Shook his head. You are not listening. The Draconians did not fail because we were aggressive. We failed because we underestimated them. You are making the same mistake. Then come with us, Bora said. Share your experience, help us avoid your mistakes. The old warrior stared at her for a long moment. Then he sighed. I will not go to Earth. Not for any treasure in the galaxy, but I will send what information we have. Our records, our scans, everything we have learned in 50 years of watching that cursed planet. He turned to walk back to his seat, then stopped. And I will tell you one more thing. In those 50 years, we have detected exactly one transmission from Earth that we could understand. It was broadcast 15 years ago in standard galactic language. 6 words. The chamber held its breath. We are ready, are you? Sat down. We did not know what it meant then. We still do not know, but I believe with all my heart that you should not try to find out. The vote was held. 217 species. 189 voted in favor of the expedition. 23 abstained. 5 voted against. The Draconians were among the 5. As the representatives filed out of the chamber, remained in his seat, approached him, her crystal body casting prismatic shadows on the floor. You are afraid, she said. I understand, but fear cannot guide policy forever. Looked up at her. You will send your ships. You will approach Earth with your diplomatic words and your peaceful intentions, and you will learn what we learned. He paused. But by then, it will be too late. Laughed. The sound was like breaking glass. You Draconians always were dramatic. Perhaps that is why your empire is dying. She walked away without looking back. Sat alone in the empty chamber for a long time. He thought about Commander, about the ships that had vanished in silence, about that single transmission from Earth, broadcast to a galaxy that was not listening. We are ready, are you? He did not know what it meant, but he knew, with the certainty of a survivor, that the galaxy was about to find out. 3 months later, the joint expedition assembled at the edge of space. 30 ships from 12 species, the finest vessels each civilization could offer. Scientists, diplomats, and soldiers from across the galaxy, all united by curiosity and the promise of new opportunities. Admiral of the Dominion was chosen to lead. She was experienced, cautious, and respected by all members of the coalition. Her flagship, the Eternal Dawn, was a masterpiece of engineering. 1/2 mile long, armed with weapons that could crack planets and equipped with the most advanced sensors in the known universe. As the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, a final message arrived from the Draconian. It was from, May your gods protect you. Ours did not protect us. Admiral deleted the message and gave the order to jump. The fleet vanished into hyperspace, racing toward a destiny none of them truly understood. And on Earth, in a city that gleamed with impossible technology, a young woman named looked up at the stars and smiled. They are coming, she said. Her husband Minyu stood beside her. "Are we ready?" Smile widened. "We have been ready for 50 years. The question is, are they ready for us?" She turned and walked back inside, leaving the stars to shine alone. The joint expedition dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Admiral stood at the center of her bridge, her eyes scanning the data that flooded across every screen. Around her, crew members from 6 different species worked at their stations, translating information into forms they could all understand. "Report," she clicked, her mandibles moving precisely. Her tactical officer, a reptilian named, studied his console with careful attention. "Admiral, we have arrived at the designated coordinates. All 30 ships accounted for. No damage from the hyperspace jump." "Good. Begin long-range scans of the system. I want to know everything before we move forward." The Eternal Dawn sensors were the best in the galaxy. They could detect a single life form on a planet millions of miles away. They could analyze the composition of atmosphere from across a solar system. They had mapped unknown regions of space with perfect accuracy. But as the scans completed, his expression changed from professional calm to confused concern. "Admiral, there is something strange here." "Move to a station. Explain." "The third planet, Earth. It shows signs of advanced development, cities covering large portions of the surface, infrastructure on a massive scale, energy readings consistent with industrial activity." He paused, checking his data twice. "But there are no energy signatures matching spacefaring technology, no orbital stations, no defense platforms, no ships in space." "That matches our intelligence. The humans are advanced but planet-bound." "Yes, Admiral, but," pointed to another display, "there is more. Around the planet I am detecting a debris field, thousands of objects in irregular orbits." Leaned closer. "Asteroids." "No, Admiral, metal, processed metal, ship-grade alloys." His vertical pupils dilated. "Some of it matches Draconian signatures, some matches designs I do not recognize at all." A cold feeling spread through the bridge. Everyone knew what they were looking at. The remains of the Draconian Armadas. Maybe others too. Ships from species that had tried to approach Earth and never returned. Admiral straightened her thorax. She had commanded fleets in 3 wars. She had faced enemies that could have destroyed her species. She would not show fear now. "Continue scanning. Look for any active threats." "Admiral," another officer spoke up, her voice tense. "I am detecting something else. A signal coming from the planet." "What kind of signal?" "Unknown. It is scanning us. Our systems are being probed." His compound eyes narrowed. "Block it, raise shields." "I cannot block it, Admiral. It is passing through our shields like they are not there. It is reading our computer systems, our crew manifests, our weapon specifications." The officer's hands were shaking. "It knows everything about us." The bridge fell silent. Everyone stared at each other, fear replacing confidence. Then the signal stopped. For 30 seconds nothing happened. The fleet drifted in space, waiting, watching. A voice came through the communication array. It spoke perfect standard Galactic, the common language of the Council. It was calm and measured, neither threatening nor welcoming. Simply neutral. "Admiral, welcome to the Sol system. We have been expecting you." His mandibles clicked with surprise. "You know my name." "We know all your names, the 30 vessels of your fleet, the 12 species represented, the specific weapons each ship carries, the personal histories of every crew member aboard." A pause. "We have been monitoring your galaxy for quite some time." The Admiral exchanged glances with her officers. This was impossible. Earth was supposed to be primitive, isolated, unaware of galactic events. "How do you know our language?" demanded. "We learned it from the Draconians. They were very thorough record keepers. Their ships contained extensive databases on galactic civilization, history, science, culture, languages." Another pause. They also contain detailed information on galactic military capabilities. We found that particularly useful. Whispered, they have been studying us. For 50 years, they have been studying everything. The voice continued as if it had heard him. Your assumption is correct. We have spent 5 decades analyzing the technology, strategy, and psychology of every known species. We wanted to understand who our neighbors were. The tone remained completely calm. We were disappointed by what we learned. Admiral found her voice. We did not come here as enemies. This is a diplomatic mission. We wish only to establish peaceful contact. We know. That is why we are allowing this conversation. Allowing. Admiral, your fleet entered our space approximately 4 minutes ago. In that time, we have targeted every vessel with weapons capable of instantaneous destruction. We have mapped the neural patterns of every crew member aboard every ship. We have identified 17 separate methods by which we could disable your fleet without casualties, and 43 methods that would result in complete destruction. The bridge crew stared at their stations in horror. No alarms had sounded. No threats had appeared on sensors, yet somehow they were already defeated. We chose not to use any of them, not yet, because you came with words instead of weapons. The voice softened just slightly. That is a choice we respect. His mind raced. Every instinct told her to run, to order a retreat back to Council space. But she was an admiral. She had a mission, and somewhere beneath her fear, curiosity burned. What do you want? She asked. We want many things, but first we want to meet you, face to face, ship to surface. A set of coordinates appeared on the navigation console. You may approach with 3 vessels. The rest of your fleet will remain at the system's edge. This is not a request. And if we refuse? For the first time, the voice carried something like emotion. Not anger, not threat, just quiet certainty. You will not refuse. Every console on the bridge flickered. A new image appeared on the main screen. It showed the Eternal Dawn's own engine core deep in the ship's protected center. The image was perfectly detailed, showing every component, every energy flow. And in the middle of it, a small red dot blinked steadily. Your antimatter containment field is now operating at our discretion, the voice said. One thought from me, and your flagship becomes a small sun. The same is true for every ship in your fleet. Admiral stared at the blinking dot. Her engineers had assured her that the engine core was impossible to access remotely, that no known technology could penetrate the shielding, that the Eternal Dawn was invulnerable. They had been wrong. 3 vessels, the voice repeated. 1 hour, we look forward to meeting you. The channel closed. The red dot vanished. The engine core continued to function normally as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Broke the silence. Admiral, what do we do? Stood motionless for a long moment. She thought about the draconian warnings, about old, haunted eyes, about the debris field circling Earth like a graveyard. Then she made her decision. Prepare 3 landing vessels, diplomatic teams only, no weapons. Admiral, you cannot be serious, protested. This is clearly a trap. A trap turned to face him. They control our engines. They know everything about us. If they wanted us dead, we would be dead. They are offering to talk. I intend to listen. She walked toward the door of the bridge, then stopped. And contact Ambassador on the vessel. Tell her she is getting her diplomatic contact. I hope she enjoys it as much as she expected. 1 hour later, 3 small ships descended through Earth's atmosphere. They carried 20 representatives from the joint expedition, scientists, diplomats, translators, and 20 soldiers who knew their weapons were probably useless. Admiral watched through the viewport as clouds parted to reveal the surface below. She had expected ruins, destruction, the remnants of a civilization that had fought off invaders and barely survived. Instead, she saw something that made her breath catch. Cities, massive cities of gleaming towers and flowing architecture. vehicles moving along invisible paths in the sky, forests and gardens integrated seamlessly with technology, everything beautiful, everything impossible. This was not a primitive world. This was a paradise. And somewhere down there, the humans were waiting. The landing ships touched down in a place that had once been called Korea. Admiral stepped onto the platform first, her compound eyes trying to process what she was seeing. The city around her was unlike anything in the galaxy. Buildings rose from the earth like growing things, their surfaces covered in living plants and flowing water. Vehicles drifted through the air without visible engines. The streets were clean and quiet, filled with soft music that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Behind her, Ambassador's crystal form shimmered nervously. They had been so confident on the council floor, so certain that the humans were primitive and afraid. Now, standing in this impossible place, her certainty had crumbled. "This cannot be right," she whispered. "Our scans showed no spacefaring technology, no advanced infrastructure. How can this exist?" Admiral had no answer. 20 alien visitors stood on the landing platform, surrounded by beauty they could not explain. Their security detail gripped their weapons tightly, though everyone knew the weapons were meaningless here. A woman approached them. She was small by galactic standards. Dark hair fell to her shoulders. She wore simple clothes, nothing that indicated rank or importance. She moved with calm confidence, as if walking toward ancient enemies was something she did every day. "Welcome to Earth," she said. Her voice was the same one that had spoken through their communications. "My name is, I will be your guide today." Admiral stepped forward. "You are the one who threatened our fleet." Smiled. It was a gentle expression, but something in it made the Admiral's chitin crawl. "I did not threaten you, Admiral. I informed you of the situation. There is a difference. You held our lives in your hands." "Yes, and I chose not to end them. That should tell you something about our intentions." Ambassador pushed her way to the front. "Where are your leaders? We came to negotiate with those in charge, not with a simple messenger." Turned to face the. Her smile did not change, but her eyes grew harder. "I am not a messenger, Ambassador. I am a representative of the human collective. I speak with full authority, and I should warn you that your attitude, which may be acceptable in your council chambers, will not serve you well here." His crystal form flickered with anger. "You dare to lecture me? I am an ambassador of the collective. My species has existed for 100,000 years. We were building empires when your ancestors were living in caves." "And yet," said quietly, "here you are, in our city, at our invitation, because your fleets, for all your ancient wisdom, could not stop us any more than the Draconians could." The silence that followed was absolute. Gestured toward a nearby building. "Come, there is much to discuss and much to show you. Your questions will be answered." She began walking. After a moment of hesitation, the alien delegation followed. The building they entered was a museum of sorts, or perhaps a memorial. The halls were filled with displays that made no sense, technologies that should not exist, weapons that bent the laws of physics, and images. Thousands of images showing the history of human development. Led them past displays of primitive tools and ancient cities, past the rise of nations and the fall of empires, past wars and plagues and disasters that had shaped human history. Then they reached a different section. "This is where our true story begins," said. "The year was 2041 by our calendar. Your scouts first detected our system. We detected them at the same time." Admiral studied the display. It showed a small object, clearly alien, passing through the outer regions of the solar system. "We knew then that we were not alone," continued. "We knew that others were watching, and we knew, based on everything we had imagined about the universe, that they would eventually come for us." "Imagined?" asked. Smiled again. "That is the secret the galaxy never understood. Humans have been preparing for alien contact for centuries, not with weapons or defenses, but with imagination. We wrote stories about wars in space. We created movies and books about alien invasions. We explored every possible scenario of how contact might happen and what we would need to survive it. She led them deeper into the museum. When we confirmed that alien life existed, we did not panic. We did not build useless rockets or primitive shields. Instead, we went quiet. We hid our true development from galactic sensors while we built something better. They stopped before a massive display. It showed the Earth, surrounded by an invisible field of energy. We call it the veil. It masks our true technological signatures from external scans. To the galaxy, we appear primitive, harmless, not worth the trouble of investigation. His voice grew proud. Behind the veil, we developed technologies your scientists would call impossible. She moved to another display. This one showed a small device, no larger than a human fist. This is what Commander saw before he sent his final transmission. We call it a probability anchor. It locks a target into a single quantum state, the state of maximum entropy, instantaneous molecular dissolution across any distance, through any barrier. Admiral stared at the device. You could destroy a fleet with this. We could destroy anything, a ship, a planet, a star if necessary. His tone remained calm. We have weapons that fold space, weapons that rewrite atomic structures, weapons that turn gravity into a surgical tool. We developed them because we knew one day someone would come, and we would have one chance to survive. Ambassador spoke, her voice barely a whisper. Then why have you not conquered the galaxy? With this power, you could rule everything. Turned to face her fully. For a long moment, she simply looked at the ambassador. When she spoke, her voice was soft but carried absolute conviction. Because we do not want to. The words hung in the air. We never wanted any of this, continued. We wanted to explore, to meet other species, to share what we had learned, to join the community of intelligent life and contribute to something greater than ourselves. She paused. But first, the galaxy had to understand something very important. What? That we are not prey. She led them to the final display. It showed images of the Draconian invasion, ships descending through Earth's atmosphere, soldiers landing in cities, and then, nothing, empty streets, vanished armies, disappeared fleets. The Draconians came to conquer. We responded appropriately. The Second Fleet came for revenge. We responded again. We gave your species 50 years to learn from those events, to understand that Earth was not a target, to leave us in peace. Admiral spoke carefully, and instead we sent another expedition. Yes, but you came with questions instead of weapons. You came seeking contact instead of conquest. Smiled, and this time it seemed genuine. That is why we are having this conversation instead of adding your ships to the debris field. A thought struck the Admiral. The debris field, you left it there deliberately. As a warning, as a reminder, we could have cleaned it away. We chose not to. We wanted anyone approaching our system to see what happened to those who came with hostile intent. The delegation was silent, processing everything they had learned. The impossible technology, the hidden development, the deliberate deception that had protected Earth for half a century. Finally, Admiral asked the question that had been burning in her mind. What do you want from us? Considered her response. We want the galaxy to know the truth, not because we wish to threaten or intimidate, but because the time for hiding is ending. We have developed in isolation for long enough. We are ready to join the galactic community. On what terms? On equal terms, as partners, not subjects, as allies, not servants. The expression grew serious. We will share some of our technology. We will engage in trade and diplomacy. We will contribute to galactic peace and development. And if we refuse? You will not refuse. His voice carried no threat, only certainty. Because you have seen what we can do. because you have walked in our cities and witnessed our capabilities, and because you know now that any conflict between your civilization and ours would end in ways you cannot afford. She stepped closer to the Admiral. We are offering peace. We are offering cooperation. We are offering a future where humanity and the galaxy grow together. Her eyes met Compound gaze directly. Take our offer back to your council. Tell them what you have seen, and give them this message. What message? Smiled one final time. The age of being overlooked is over. The children of Earth have grown up, and we remember everyone who laughed at the warnings. The joint expedition returned to Council space 1 week after leaving Earth. The journey felt longer than it should have. Every crew member spent the hours in silence, lost in thoughts they could not share, remembering things they could not forget. Admiral had not slept since leaving the solar system. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that small device in the museum. The probability anchor, a weapon the size of a child's toy that could erase fleets from existence. She saw his gentle smile, and she wondered how many other weapons were hidden behind that calm expression. The Grand Forum was packed when the expedition arrived. Representatives from every known species crowded the chamber, hungry for news. Rumors had spread across the galaxy during the week of travel. Some said the expedition had been destroyed. Others claimed they had discovered treasure beyond imagination. No one knew the truth. Admiral took the central podium. The chamber fell silent. She spoke for 3 hours. She described everything they had seen, the cities that physics, the technology that made galactic civilization look primitive, the weapons that could end wars before they began. She played recordings of their conversations with. She showed images of the museum displays. She held nothing back. When she finished, no one moved. The silence was so complete that the humming of environmental systems seemed loud. Finally, the council president spoke. She was an elderly, her crystal form clouded with age, her voice trembling but still strong. Admiral, are you saying that the humans have been hiding their true capabilities for 50 years? Yes, President. That they possess technology beyond anything we have developed in of advancement. Yes, President. That they could destroy our combined fleets with weapons we cannot detect, cannot counter, and cannot even understand. Yes, President. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted over each other. Some demanded war. Some demanded immediate surrender. Some simply sat in stunned silence, unable to process what they had heard. Ambassador did not speak. She had not spoken since leaving Earth. Her crystal form had dimmed, its usual brightness faded to a pale shadow. She sat in her section of the chamber, staring at nothing, remembering everything. The council president raised her hand for silence. It took several minutes for the chamber to calm. What do the humans want? She asked. Admiral answered carefully. They want to join the galactic community. As equals, as partners. They are willing to share some technology and engage in trade and diplomacy, but they will not be treated as inferiors. They will not accept terms that treat them as anything less than a major power. And if we refuse? The Admiral was quiet for a moment. They did not make specific threats, but their representative made clear that refusal was not an option they expected us to take. Given what they have demonstrated, I believe she was correct. More shouting, more chaos. The president let it continue for a few minutes, then called for order again. We will take this to a vote. A motion to accept the human offer of peaceful contact, trade, and diplomatic relations, under terms to be negotiated between our governments. The vote was held. Every species voted in favor, every single one. Even the ones who had laughed at the draconian warnings. After the session ended, Admiral remained in the chamber. She was tired, tired of talking, tired of explaining, tired of seeing fear in the eyes of species that had conquered stars. A familiar figure approached. Old, the draconian veteran walked slowly across the empty floor. He looked even older than before, but his eyes carried something new. Not satisfaction, not triumph, just sad understanding. "You saw it," he said, "what we saw." "Yes." "You understand now why we ran." "Yes." Sat down heavily in a nearby seat. "The funny thing is, we deserved what happened to us. We came to Earth as conquerors. We deserve to be conquered in return." He paused. "But you did not come as conquerors. You came as diplomats, and they let you leave." Admiral considered this. "They said they respected our choice to approach with words instead of weapons." "Then perhaps there is hope. Perhaps they truly do want peace." Looked at her with ancient eyes. "Or perhaps they are simply patient. Perhaps they are waiting to see what we do next." "What do you think we should do?" The old Draconian laughed. It was a bitter sound. "I think we should pray. Pray that we never give them a reason to use those weapons. Pray that we are worthy of the chance they are giving us. Pray that the galaxy learns from our mistakes." He stood slowly, preparing to leave. "And pray that, when they finally emerge in full, they remember that we came to them with peace the second time." On Earth, in a city that gleamed beneath evening stars, stood on a rooftop and watched the sky. Somewhere up there, beyond the veil, the Council fleet was racing back to report what they had learned. Somewhere up there, fear was spreading through civilizations that had never known fear before. Minyu joined her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "It is done. It is beginning. The Council has voted to accept our terms. Full diplomatic recognition, trade agreements, technology sharing programs." She smiled. "They did not even try to negotiate." "Fear is a powerful motivator." "Yes, but fear alone is not enough. Fear makes enemies. We need to turn them into allies." Minyu nodded. "The plan proceeds." "The plan proceeds. In 50 years we will reveal more technology, share more knowledge, integrate more completely with galactic society. By then, they will have grown used to us. They will have learned that we are not monsters, that we do not want conquest or domination." She turned to face her husband. "I will live in a galaxy where humans are partners, not strangers, where our species is respected, not feared. And if the galaxy turns against us before then—" Smile faded. "Then we will do what we have always done, survive, adapt, overcome." Her voice grew hard. "We did not build these weapons because we wanted war. We built them because we knew that survival requires strength, and we will never be weak again." They stood together in silence, watching the stars. In the council chamber, representatives talked in hushed voices about the new power that had emerged. They wondered what the future would bring. They wondered if peace would last. They wondered if they had made the right choice. But deep down, they all knew the truth. There was no choice. There never had been. The humans had been preparing for this moment for a century. Every move, every development, every decision had led to this. And now, the galaxy would have to adjust to a new reality. Return to the Draconian embassy, where a young officer waited with a message from the Emperor. Wanted a full report. He wanted to know everything the council had learned. The old veteran sat at his desk and began to write. He described the technology, the weapons, the impossible cities, and the gentle smile of the woman who spoke for humanity. And at the end of his report, he wrote something personal, something that would never appear in official records. "For 50 years we told the galaxy to fear Earth. They laughed at us. They mocked us. They called us cowards and fools. Now they understand. Now they feel what we felt. But I do not find satisfaction in their fear. I find only sadness. Because fear is a poison. It destroys trust. It breeds hate. And unless we learn to move past it, unless we find a way to see the humans as something more than a threat, this fear will destroy us all." The humans offered peace. They offered partnership. They offered a future we could build together. I hope we are wise enough to accept it. I hope we are brave enough to try. Because if we are not, then all the warnings in the galaxy will not save us from ourselves. He signed the report and sent it to the. Then he sat alone in his office, an old warrior who had seen too much, and wondered what tomorrow would bring. Across the galaxy, fear emerged. But so did hope. And in the end, that would have to be enough.